Beep, 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 beep. Morning. What are you lot up to? Here we go. More on Netflix Adolescence. Now, this ridiculous program, which has caused quite the furore and has become one of the most watched programs in history on the old Netflixage. Right, so we're going to have a look at that. But it's a great article that's come from JJ Starkey from a blog called The Stark Naked Brief. And the title is Netflix Adolescence, the Unadulterated Truth, brackets, after all the hysteria. So strongly recommend to subscribe to this blog, Stark Naked Brief. Links, as usual, in the doobriz. But what I want to do is I want to jump in halfway through the article because it's got some information about data that I think is particularly interesting. And what we're really looking at here is the aftermath, as mentioned by the blog, of what's happened since this program seems to have captured the public imagination, but not only that, seems to have deranged our lovely Prime Minister, Keir Starmer. Sorry, right, okay. So we're going to look at the relevant data. Before we do, become a warrior teacher, subscribe, like, share, do the usual. If you want me to keep going, buy me a coffee. Please help out if you can. The relevant data. Here we are, you see, the relevant data. So let's begin. In the aftermath of its release, Starmer repeatedly hailed the show, stating, as a father, watching Adolescence with my teenage son and daughter hit home hard. We all need to be having these conversations more. Given such comments, one might think the statistics on misogynistic, Tate-driven incel violence are significant. The thing is, they're not really. According to the government data from Prevent, the UK's primary counter-extremism programme, only 9 referrals in 2023 and 24 were linked to incel-related concerns. This is let alone the fact that a teenager cannot be an incel. What a nonsense. What not? 13 years old. I'm an incel. Are you? Right, so you're involuntary celibate. Yeah, apart from... Yeah, I know, don't say it. They're 13. Right, that weirdo third episode with the psychologist, I was fuming. I was spitting blood. How dare she? Weirdo. Reverse the roles and have that conversation. Imagine a man having a conversation with a girl about the same things. It's absolutely revolting. Anyway, that figure that I've just given you is just 2% of the total cases adopted by Prevent, or Channel, as the arm of Prevent is called, that offers intervention for individuals considered at risk of committing extremist acts. This may be because incel ideology manifests alongside other extremism types, but the same is true for other ideologies. Compare that to 45% of adopted cases linked to extreme right-wing ideology, and 23% tied to Islamist extremism. Even individuals flagged for threats of school massacres outnumber incel cases. So what's the game? If that's the case, that's what we've got to ask ourselves. What's the game? Go read the blog. You'll find out much more. It's a fantastic blog. More telling, the Prevent system has long been accused of institutional bias that aligns with a broader civil service orthodoxy. Training materials categorize cultural nationalism as an extremist ideology. The belief that Western culture is under threat from mass migration and a lack of integration is explicitly flagged as a narrative of concern, in which case I'm concerned about that. The loss of our culture. If you were French, you'd certainly be concerned. In other words, the figures that do exist are small, and the ones that do exist that are small are tainted by the ideological beliefs of the civil service, which is a socialist state within a state run by a bunch of commies. It's surreal. A government source familiar with the training recently confirmed the examples used to illustrate radicalization almost exclusively feature white young men. Almost exclusively feature white young men. Even modules on incels, she noted, places disproportionate focus on obscure online terminology like looks maxing, a process of maximizing one's own physical attractiveness, as if that's a bad thing. What? And yet, despite that tilt, adopted incel cases remain remarkably small. So if you want to maximize your own physical attractiveness, go in the gym, you buff up a bit, you make sure your hair's done, you look after yourself, that makes you a possible incel. This is insane. And yet, despite that tilt, adopted incel cases remain remarkably small. The notion that misogynistic extremism is sweeping through the UK's white youth is also undermined by the data. A 2023 Savanta survey of over 1,200 UK residents aged 16 to 25 found that while 41% of black respondents viewed Andrew Tate favourably, And he's a Muslim, by the way, Andrew Tate. And 31% of Asian respondents, or only 15% of white respondents, did. It's just curious. I think it's like Alice through the looking glass. Curiouser and curiouser. Dr. William Costello, a researcher at the University of Austin specialising in incel psychology, confirmed as much in a recent interview with Trigonometry. I watched that last night. It's well worth a watch. His work consistently shows that Tate's influence is not concentrated among disaffected white youth, but spread far more broadly. And all of this is happening against a backdrop where 75% of MI5's caseload is tied to Islamist extreme terrorism, and foreign nationals are significantly overrepresented in sex and violence offence statistics. Data from the Ministry of Justice, obtained under Freedom of Information request, shows that up to 23% of sexual offences, including rape, were accounted for by foreign nationals between 2021 and 2023, despite census data showing they make up 9.3% of the population. So why? What on earth is to be gained by Keir Starmer pushing this and then saying they want to put it in schools? It's absolutely outrageous. It's a government psyop. That's a tin hat term, isn't it? Get me the Mako foil. It's a government psyop. It's just for weird. So, new heading here, disproportion. This is why some jaws dropped on March the 31st when Starmer officially backed the producer's plan to have the series screened in secondary school so that as many young people as possible can see it. Critics quickly pointed out that the BBC's Three Girls, a 2017 drama based on the real Rochdale grooming scandal, was never shown in schools. It's a brilliant drama. Maxine Peake. It's a brilliant drama. Absolutely brilliant. That series depicted as part of the industrial-scale grooming of vulnerable white working-class girls by networks of men, mostly of Middle Eastern and South Asian descent. A case built on documented facts, witness testimony, police reports and first-hand survivor accounts. Yet it's the pseudo-fictional, Tate-inspired incel boy that gets a government mandate. Original grooming gang whistleblower and former detective Maggie Oliver, go Maggie, says it's still occurring. Her foundation, set up to support survivors, is still being contacted by dozens of girls every month. Knife crime among teenagers is far more prevalent. In the year ending March 2024, more than 3,200 knife or offensive weapon offences were committed by children aged 10 to 17 that resulted in a caution or sentence. That's a 6% drop from the previous year, but still 20% higher than it was a decade ago. Then it says no school screenings. More pervasive areas of concern go on. But when Conservative leader Kenny Badlock finally addressed the elephant in the room, calling on Starmer to prioritise economic growth instead of indulging theatre, the Liberal media again lit their torches. First came LBC and Nick Ferrari, suggesting Badnock was being derelict in her duty for admitting she hadn't watched the show. Yet, yes, apparently, not watching a dramatised Netflix miniseries now qualifies as a dereliction of public office. This from the broadcaster that positions itself as a champion of reasoned discourse. Then James O'Brien jumped in, claiming Badnock had fallen victim to online racist lies about the show's casting, specifically suggesting that a non-white real-life killer had been fictionalised as white. This, despite Adolescence's own co-creator, Stephen Graham, admitting in the Radio Times interview that the South London case involving murderer Hassan Sentamu, a black teenager, had been part of its inspiration. Meanwhile, the BBC's coverage became outright surreal. In their attempt to force a connection between Adolescence, Southport and Andrew Tate, the BBC published a piece headlined, Southport Attack Parents Share Andrew Tate Fears. 6 lines in, the author confessed, it is not known whether he, Ruda Kubana, that's right, ever viewed material linked to Mr. Tate. So why write the article? The same outlet repeated police lines that Ruda Kubana's true motive is unknown, and they've said nothing, zero, about the reported anti-white content found on his laptop. If they're willing to run, she said, tied to a social media influencer to Southport, surely they should be covering the content reportedly found on the killer's device. Then came a bit of a bombshell, this is under Curious Connections, uncovered by the ever-diligent investigative journalist Charlotte Gill. Just as Adolescence was approved for rollout in schools, Netflix revealed the plan would be facilitated via Interfilm Plus, a platform supported by the British Film Institute. Accompanying this, a charity called Tender would be producing educational guides and conversation toolkits for teachers, parents and carers, framing the series for classroom discussion. we went largely unmentioned. What went largely unmentioned is that Tender received 3.4 million in taxpayer cash between 2020 and 24. Its CEO, Susie McDonald MBE, attended the Adolescence Roundtable hosted by Starmer. If it looks like a duck, and it sounds like a duck, and it walks like a duck, it's a duck. But I'll wait for you to tell me what you think. Go and read the whole damn thing. The link's in the doobry, and subscribe. It's a brilliant article. Thank you very much indeed to JJ Starkey, who gave us this absolute gem to go through today. But there's much more to it than that. I've only given you a very small portion of the article. The revelations in it are well worth reading and well worth understanding. There's something terribly wrong, and I can't put my finger on it. But I'm sure you'll let me know in the doobries, as you usually do. So don't be shy. Comment. Tell me what the bleeding hell's going on. And I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.